kind of on that note, was there any pitches that you brought to the table in terms of storylines that you adamant that would have like killed it, but that just didn't maybe make it?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, I should be better at recalling these things because they're the things I probably were like, one day I'll get asked on a podcast about this idea and you'll all see how great of an idea it was. But yeah, I mean, there was lots of stuff. There was one, this is something that I did get a little vindication for. There was an episode or a storyline I pitched where it was like, Jerry or Morty, I guess, like it was a Rear Window spoof where he starts to be he sees the man on the moon, and then he is telling everybody he saw a man on the moon with his telescope, and nobody believes him, and then the man shows up in their neighborhood, and that became a Morty's mind blower, if you recall. So that was like whatever that was, like a 3-minute version, but I pitched that. I was adamant that should be a whole fucking B story, and everyone was like, I remember everybody kind of looked at me like, okay, man. I was like, no, this could be fucking great. And so then I got to do it as like a 3-minute Morty's mind blower sketch or whatever you want to call it, and I think it's a proof of concept. It works, but there was plenty of stuff. I mean, God, there was an episode that we were working on, like, so there was like stuff where I remember me and Guterman, this is another writer on the show, Dan Guterman, for season 2 and season 3. We became really tight. We worked on a couple episodes together. He told me that, and I don't remember this that well, like there was an episode that we were both adamant about where it's like Rick and Morty do a heist on Heaven, where like it's sort of like the movie, God, what's that called? They just did a remake of it. It was an 80s movie. Where these people kill themselves, like these college students kill themselves, and then they're able to kind of die for a period of time, and they wake back up, and we're like, oh, what if we take that logic and they can kind of kill themselves, and then they can go to heaven, so then they can do a heist in heaven, and then they can come back somehow with whatever they're stealing. And I thought it'd be a really cool way to kind of deal with Rick and Morty in the Judeo-Christian idea of the afterlife, which I think is why Dan didn't want to do it. Because he's like, if we start dealing with the Judeo-Christian afterlife, like then that means that exists in our world. And I thought, well, sure, but maybe we can have a little fun with it. We can actually give it a sci-fi explanation. Like this is another dimension, another reality that humans have called heaven or hell for thousands of years. I totally get it, because we did straight up an episode with the fucking devil. So we established that the devil exists in the Rick and Morty universe. So, sometimes there'd just be things that would get shot down for a lot of various reasons that were understandable, I guess, at the time.
Absolutely. And like when you guys are actually constructing a world, like as a writer, do you and the animators have like a similar idea of what that world might look like, or what those characters might look like that you might write in?
No, I mean, I tell the story all the time about the Meeseeks when I had written that episode, and then I think I saw the first batch of character designs, because that's what'll happen is it's like here's 10 ideas for what this character can look like, and Justin or us in later seasons that were the writer producers would have say in that, and so we go like, no, I don't like that, or I like that. And the first batch of Meeseeks were closer to what they ended up as, tall. But having written, this is after the episode's written, imagine them as being like small, like this is smaller than what I mean, but it looks like this, like Smurf, like a Smurf size, right? Like a little tiny, like 3 apples high. And so, there's those scenes in the restaurant with Jerry and Beth having a romantic dinner, and then they all come in horseback and stuff. Obviously this wouldn't work on horseback necessarily, but I just imagine them like being like these tiny little creatures who jumped on the table and are like, whatever they're doing, like have a gun or what, I can't remember what they're doing in that scene. I was like, that's going to be, funny that they're small. And there's this big fight because it was actually, I always say it was like the internet meme, like the blue dress, gold dress or whatever that was. where like half the people in the writing staff and the artists and whoever thought that they were to scale of human scale, and half thought they were like tiny. And so it's funny how like just you can read the same thing and picture something totally different. I guess it never was written that their scale in the script, so everyone just kind of imagined their own thing. And so that's a perfect idea. There's tons of other situations. There was like an episode, the episode in season 2 where Rick and Morty go into the battery and they keep going into kind of a successive series of worlds within worlds. And something happened. My microphone just went out. And so there was a part where they're in the third or fourth, whatever it was, world, and there's these characters that were described as tree people. And the first batch of designs were like literally like Lord of the Rings style, the Ents, like tree people, like people made from trees. And I was like, no, they're humanoid beings who live amongst the trees. They're like native, arboreal tribes, like they're not humans, but they live among. Anyways, and in my mind at the time, that was just like it was just there was a red line drawn, like it had to be that and not literal tree people.
Absolutely. Have you guys ever thought about doing like, or did you guys ever think about doing like how Family Guy did like the whole Blue Harvest thing, where they did like a 3-part Star Wars sort of a parody? Did you guys ever think about doing like one central sci-fi parody throughout a couple of episodes?
No, like I said, I don't think the parody is. I don't think it's good when we do parody in Rick and Morty. I thought that the closest thing to that was we did the 2-part season 2 cliffhanger, season 3 premiere, which was when Rick gets arrested at the end of season 2 by the Galactic Federation, and then in season 1 he's rescued by Summer and Morty and stuff, and it becomes this whole. That's when we started drawing upon this past mythology and calling back to a lot of stuff. And in a way, you could say that was a parody of Rick and Morty, because we're like, hey, remember Bird Person? Hey, remember the Cronenberg dimension?
Yeah.
And there was a lot of just debate over whether that was like too much fan service stuff. But at the very least, it was our own sci-fi plot. It was our own epic storyline. It was our Star Wars. And I think that's way better. And that's way more Rick and Morty than just if we had done a spoof of literally Star Wars. I mean, by the way, not that I'm above it all the time. Like another thing I was pushing for a long time ago was a cold opening that was just a straight up homage to Dune, because I just love Dune, especially the 1982 or 5, whatever, David Lynch version. And I was like, I had this whole, the idea with like, there's this fucking crazy worm creature on like a floating tank in that movie. And I was like, it's going to be that character, a little bit tweaked, so it's not just a straight up ripoff. And I love that world. And that they shot that down. I can't remember why they shot that down, but that was just going to be a cold open. Okay. It wasn't going to be a whole spoof of an episode or of a movie.